I was sitting in Maria Rodriguez's office, staring at the stack of papers she'd just slid across her desk when she said the words that should have changed everything. Mrs. Patterson, based on the final settlement from the accident and the pension buyout your husband arranged before his death, you're looking at approximately $2.3 million. The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the arms of the leather chair, my knuckles going white. 23 months. That's how long it had been since the semi-truck ran the red light on Route 40, since the police officers showed up at my door at 2:47 inches the morning, since my world stopped making sense. 2.3 million, I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Maria nodded, her dark eyes gentle behind wire-rimmed glasses. The settlement came through faster than expected. The trucking company's insurance didn't want to go to trial, and Tom's pension administrator finally processed the survivor buyout option he'd elected 3 years ago. Most people don't even know that option exists. My husband Tom had been a warehouse supervisor for 31 years. We lived in our modest split level in suburban Phoenix, drove used cars, clipped coupons, comfortable but never wealthy. The kind of people who checked the clearance rack first and considered Olive Garden a nice dinner out. I don't understand, I said, shaking my head. Tom never mentioned any of this. He set it up as a surprise, I think, Maria said softly. According to the documentation, he wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of if anything happened to him. The pension buyout was substantial because he'd been with the company so long. Combined with the settlement, she paused. Susan, you're financially secure for the rest of your life. I should have felt relief, joy even. Instead, I felt a hollow ache in my chest. What good was financial security when the person you'd planned to grow old with was gone? There are some decisions to make, Maria continued, opening a folder. About investments, about the house. Your daughter Jennifer called me last week, actually. She said she wanted to help you manage everything, make sure you didn't feel overwhelmed. Something cold flickered in my stomach. Jennifer called you? Yes, she was very concerned. Said you'd been having some health issues, that she worried you weren't up to handling complex financial decisions. Maria's expression shifted slightly. I told her I couldn't discuss your finances without your explicit permission, of course. I sat very still. What health issues did she mention? She said you'd been forgetful, that you'd had a few small accidents, missed some appointments. Maria tilted her head. Susan, is there something I should know? If you're having cognitive difficulties, we should discuss setting up some protections. I'm not having any difficulties, I said, my voice sharp. I'm 62 years old, not 90. I'm grieving, but I'm perfectly capable of making my own decisions. Maria studied me for a long moment, then nodded. That's what I thought. But your daughter was quite insistent. She even asked about power of attorney procedures. The cold feeling in my stomach spread to my limbs. I forced myself to smile. Jennifer worries too much, always has. But as I drove home, my hands trembled on the steering wheel. Jennifer had called my accountant without telling me, asked about my competence, inquired about power of attorney. Why? I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a moment, staring at the house Tom and I had bought 34 years ago. The maple tree he'd planted when Jennifer was born towered over the garage now. The kitchen window still had the crack from where I'd thrown a baseball with our grandson Tyler and missed my catch spectacularly. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Coming by for dinner tonight, Mom. I'll bring takeout. We need to talk about some things. 6 p.m., okay? I typed back. That's fine, sweetheart. But my mind was racing. Jennifer lived 40 minutes away in Scottsdale with her husband Brad and their son Tyler. She called every few days, visited maybe once a month. We weren't estranged, but we weren't particularly close either. She'd always been more like Tom, practical and reserved, while I was the one who cried at commercials and collected stray cats. Her sudden interest in my finances felt wrong. I went inside and made myself a cup of tea, something Tom had gotten me into during the last years of his life. English breakfast with honey, the way he'd made it every morning. As I waited for the water to boil, I noticed Jennifer's laptop sitting on my kitchen table. She'd left it here 3 days ago when she'd stopped by just to check on me. Said she'd pick it up later. I'd forgotten about it. The kettle whistled. I poured the water, then looked at the laptop again. I'd never been the kind of mother who snooped. I believed in privacy, in trust. But something Maria had said kept echoing in my head. She even asked about power of attorney procedures. I sat down at the table. Told myself I was just going to move the laptop to the counter. Instead, I opened it. It wasn't password protected. The screen lit up immediately, showing her desktop. I shouldn't look. I knew I shouldn't look. But my hand was already moving the cursor to her recent files. A folder labeled Mom's Situation sat right there on the desktop. My heart hammered as I clicked it open. Inside were documents. So many documents. I opened the first one, a Word file titled Timeline and Strategy. What I read made my blood run cold. Phase 1 Current. Establish pattern of cognitive decline. Mom has been forgetting small things since Dad's death, normal grief response, but can be framed as early dementia. Document all instances. Get others to notice and comment. Doctor. Rashid appointment scheduled for March 15th will express concerns about her memory and decision-making. Brad's cousin, Stephen attorney, says we need minimum 3 months of documented decline before petitioning for conservatorship. My hands started shaking so badly I almost couldn't read the rest. Phase 2, April-May. Conservatorship petition. Stephen says with Mom's age, recent loss of spouse, and documented medical concerns, judge will likely grant temporary conservatorship pending evaluation. This gives us control over finances while protecting her. Key. Frame everything as love and concern. There was more. So much more. Notes about which of Mom's friends they needed to talk to, what to say. A draft letter to my doctor expressing concerns about my mother's declining mental state. Calculations about the value of my house, my car, the settlement money. But it was the next document that broke something inside me. A group chat transcript, exported and saved, between Jennifer, Brad, and Brad's brother Ryan. Jennifer, Mom's accountant, finally called back, says the settlement is $2.3 million plus the pension buyout. Even after taxes, we're looking at close to $2 million. Brad, holy shit, that's way more than we thought. Jennifer, I know. Mom has no idea how to handle that kind of money. She'll probably give half of it to the ASPCA or something stupid. Ryan, is she still talking about that volunteer thing? The literacy program? Jennifer, yeah. She wants to find purpose now that Dad's gone. It's pathetic, honestly. She's 62, not 82, but it works for us. Makes her seem confused about her priorities. Brad, when's the doctor appointment? Next week. I already talked to Dr. Rashid's nurse. Mentioned Mom's been having memory issues. The nurse made a note in her file. When I take Mom to the appointment, I'll do most of the talking. Make it seem like Mom can't remember basic things. Brad, and she'll just go along with it? Jennifer, Mom does whatever I suggest lately. She's so deep in grief she barely knows what day it is. It's actually perfect timing. Ryan, you're sure Stephen can make the conservatorship happen? Jennifer, he says it's a slam dunk. Elderly widow, sudden large inheritance, grief-induced confusion, concerned daughter trying to protect her. Judges see it all the time and usually side with the family member. Once I have conservatorship, I control the money. We can pay off our mortgage, get Tyler into that private school, finally buy the lake house, and Mom can live here as long as she wants, totally taken care of. She'll never even have to think about money again. Brad, what if she fights it? Jennifer, she won't. She's too trusting, and by the time she realizes what's happening, if she even does, it'll be too late. Stephen says reversing a conservatorship is almost impossible. I sat there, staring at the screen, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. This was my daughter, my only child. The baby girl I'd rocked through colic, the teenager I'd stayed up late with during heartbreaks, the bride I'd cried over at her wedding. She thought I was pathetic. She was planning to have me declared incompetent. She was going to steal everything Tom had worked his entire life to leave me, and she was doing it all while pretending to care. The front door opened. Mom, I'm here. I closed the laptop with shaking hands, looked at the clock. It was only 4:30. She was early. In the kitchen, I called, my voice somehow steady. Jennifer appeared in the doorway, holding bags from our favorite Thai place. She looked so normal. Blonde hair in a neat ponytail, yoga pants and a sweater, the same smile she'd had since she was a little girl. I got your pad thai, she said, setting the bags on the counter. Extra peanuts, the way you like it. Thank you, sweetheart. She started unpacking the containers, chattering about Tyler's soccer game, about Brad's new project at work. I watched her hands move, efficient and confident. These were the hands I'd held crossing streets, teaching her to tie shoes, steadying her on her first bicycle. So, Mom, she said, finally settling into a chair across from me, I wanted to talk to you about something important. Here it comes, I thought. I'm worried about you, she continued, reaching across to pat my hand. I know you say you're doing okay, but I can see you're struggling. You've seemed so forgetful lately. Last week you told me the same story about Mrs. Chen's cat 3 times in one conversation. I hadn't, but I stayed quiet. And Maria Rodriguez called me, Jennifer said. She's concerned too. She said you seemed confused about the settlement paperwork. Maria called you? I asked quietly. Well, I called her first, Jennifer admitted, but only because I'm worried, Mom. This is a lot of money, more than you've ever had to manage. And with everything you're going through with Dad's death. She squeezed my hand. I just want to help. I think we should set up a meeting with an attorney. Someone who can help make sure you're protected. Protected from what? From making mistakes, she said gently. From people who might try to take advantage of you. From the stress of having to handle all this alone. She paused. I was thinking, maybe it would be good if I had power of attorney. Just to help. To take some of the burden off you. I looked at my daughter's face. She looked so sincere, so concerned. If I hadn't read those messages, I would have believed her. I would have thought she was being a good daughter. That's very thoughtful, I said carefully. But I think I'd like to take some time to think about it. This is all very new. Something flickered in Jennifer's eyes. Mom, I really think we should act quickly. The money is just sitting there. We need to get it invested properly, protected. Every day we wait, you could be losing thousands. I have time, I said. But do you? Jennifer leaned forward. Mom, you're not getting any younger, and you haven't been yourself since Dad died. I'm not trying to be mean, but you have to face facts. You need help managing this. I'm 62 years old, Jennifer, not senile. I never said senile, she said quickly, just overwhelmed, grieving, not thinking clearly. She softened her voice. Let me help you, Mom. That's all I want to do. Help. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I stood up. I'm actually not feeling very well. I think I need to lie down. Oh. Okay. Jennifer looked uncertain. Should I stay? Make sure you're all right? No, I'm fine. Just tired. Thank you for the dinner. She gathered her things slowly, clearly wanting to say more. At the door, she turned back. Mom? Please think about what I said, about the power of attorney. I really do think it's the best thing. I'll think about it, I promised. After she left, I went back to the laptop. I spent the next 3 hours reading everything in that folder. Every document, every chat message, every calculation of how they planned to spend my money. They'd even picked out the lake house they wanted to buy, a place in Flagstaff, $650,000. They'd been looking at private schools for Tyler that cost $35,000 a year. Jennifer had a Pinterest board for kitchen renovations. It was all there. My entire life, my husband's entire life's work, already divided up and spent in my daughter's imagination. I didn't cry. I was beyond crying. I felt something cold and hard settling in my chest, something I'd never felt before. The next morning, I called Maria Rodriguez. I need to set up a trust, I said. An irrevocable trust, and I need it done before my daughter can file any legal paperwork. There was a pause. Susan, did something happen? Something happened, I said, but I don't want to talk about it. I just need you to help me protect myself. Of course. Can you come in today? I met with Maria that afternoon. With her help, I also contacted Stephen Blackwood, an estate attorney she recommended. Not Brad's cousin Stephen, the one who was supposed to help Jennifer steal my life. A real attorney who specialized in protecting vulnerable adults from financial abuse. The thing is, Stephen said, sitting across from me in his office, what your daughter is planning, it happens more often than you'd think. Adult children convincing courts their parents are incompetent to gain control of assets. Sometimes it's justified. Often it's not. Can she still file for conservatorship? I asked. She can try, he said, but we're going to make it very difficult for her to succeed. First, we're setting up an irrevocable trust with an independent trustee. You'll still have access to your money, but it can't be seized through conservatorship. Second, we're getting you a full cognitive evaluation from an independent neuropsychologist, not Dr. Rashid, who your daughter has apparently already influenced. I'm not losing my mind, I said firmly. I know, Stephen said gently. But we need documentation proving that. We need to show any judge that you're of sound mind, making informed decisions, and that your daughter's concerns are unfounded. Over the next 2 weeks, I did everything they told me to. I saw Dr. Patricia Chen, a neuropsychologist who put me through hours of cognitive testing, memory, reasoning, decision-making, everything. She concluded, in writing, that I showed no signs of dementia or cognitive decline, that I was fully capable of managing my own affairs. I met with a financial planner who helped me set up the trust. I put everything into it: the settlement money, the pension buyout, even the house. I named Maria Rodriguez as the trustee, with strict instructions about how the money could be used. And then I waited. Jennifer called 3 times that week. Each call a little more urgent, a little more insistent that we needed to take care of things. I kept putting her off, saying I was still thinking, still processing. Finally, on a Thursday afternoon, she showed up unannounced. "Mom, we need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the house. Brad was with her, and their attorney cousin Stephen. "Hello, Mrs. Patterson," Stephen said smoothly. "I'm Stephen Carver, Brad's cousin. I'm an attorney specializing in elder law. Jennifer asked me to stop by because we're all very concerned about you." "Concerned," I repeated flatly. "Mom, please sit down," Jennifer said. She looked stressed, her makeup not quite perfect, a tightness around her eyes I'd never seen before. "We need to discuss some things, legal things, for your protection." I sat. Waited. Stephen pulled out a folder. "I've prepared some paperwork that would grant Jennifer temporary power of attorney over your finances and medical decisions. It's really just a formality, a way to ensure that if anything happens to you, or if you become unable to make decisions, Jennifer can step in and help." "I don't need help making decisions," I said. "Mom, please," Jennifer said, and I could hear the edge in her voice now. "This is for your own good. You're not thinking clearly. Ever since Dad died, you've been different. Forgetful. Confused. We're worried about you." "Who is we?" I asked. "All of us," Brad said, speaking for the first time. "Your friends have noticed too. Mrs. Morrison said you forgot her name at the grocery store last week." I had forgotten Mrs. Morrison's name, because I'd never known Mrs. Morrison. She was Jennifer's friend's mother, someone I'd met exactly once at a wedding 5 years ago. "I think," I said slowly, "that you should all leave now." "Mrs. Patterson," Stephen began, "I understand this is difficult." I said leave. Jennifer's face flushed. "Mom, you're being unreasonable. We're trying to help you. If you won't sign these papers voluntarily, we'll have to take other steps." "What steps?" I asked, even though I knew. "I can petition the court for emergency conservatorship," Stephen said. "Given your age, your recent loss, and the documented concerns about your mental state, a judge would likely grant it, especially with Dr. Rashid's notes about your declining memory." I stood up, went to the kitchen, came back with a folder of my own. "You mean these notes?" I asked, pulling out the first document. "The ones based on the conversation Jennifer had with Dr. Rashid's nurse, where she fabricated concerns about my memory." Jennifer went pale. "Or maybe you mean this evaluation," I continued, pulling out Dr. Chen's report, from an independent neuropsychologist who found me to be in excellent cognitive health with no signs of dementia or impairment. I placed another document on the coffee table. "This is the trust agreement I signed last week. Everything, every penny of the settlement and pension, is now in an irrevocable trust managed by an independent trustee. Even if you somehow convinced a judge I was incompetent, which you won't, you wouldn't have access to the money." The room was silent. "And this," I said, pulling out the final document, "is a printout of the group chat between you, Brad, and Ryan, where you discussed your timeline for having me declared incompetent." Where you called my grief pathetic. Where you planned how to spend my husband's life insurance money on a lake house and private schools. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth. You went through my laptop? You left it in my house, I said, my voice cold. And thank God you did. Otherwise, I would have walked right into your trap, believing you actually cared about me. Mom, Jennifer started, tears suddenly streaming down her face. It's not what it looks like. I do care about you. We were just worried about the money, about people taking advantage of you. You mean people like you? I interrupted. Jennifer, you were planning to steal everything. To have me declared incompetent so you could control my life. Don't you dare stand there and cry and pretend this was about protecting me. Mrs. Patterson, Stephen said, gathering his papers quickly. I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, I said. You were going to help my daughter commit fraud, elder abuse, financial exploitation. I have a very good attorney now, and he's made it clear that everything you three have done could result in criminal charges. Brad pulled Jennifer toward the door. We should go. Wait, Jennifer said, pulling away from him. She looked at me, mascara running, her perfect daughter facade finally cracking. Mom, please, I'm sorry. We got carried away. We weren't thinking straight. But I'm your daughter. Your only child. You can't just cut me off. I looked at her for a long moment. This person who I'd loved more than anything, who I'd sacrificed for, worked 2 jobs to send to college, helped with the down payment on her first house, who I'd thought loved me back. Yes, I said quietly. I can. They left. I stood at the window and watched their car pull away, and only then did I let myself shake. Only then did the tears come. I didn't hear from Jennifer for 3 weeks. Then a letter came, delivered by courier, from Stephen Carver's law office, formally withdrawing any claims or intentions regarding my finances or well-being. A legal backpedal, protecting them from prosecution. Nothing from Jennifer herself. No apology, no explanation, just legal paperwork. Tyler called me 2 months later, crying. He was 13 and confused. Grandma, Mom won't tell me why we can't visit you anymore. She just says you're sick and need space. Are you dying? My heart broke all over again. No, sweetie. I'm not dying. I'm actually doing okay. Then why? It's complicated, Tyler. Grown-up stuff. But I want you to know that I love you very much, and this isn't your fault. Can I still call you? Always. I said. Anytime you want. He did call, every few weeks. Brief conversations. Awkward at first, but getting easier. He never mentioned Jennifer. And I never asked. I spent that summer figuring out who I was without Tom, without the daughter I thought I had. I volunteered at the Phoenix Public Library, teaching adults to read, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I met people. Real people who became real friends. Dorothy, who was learning to read at 72. Marcus, who dropped out of school at 14 and was now working toward his GED at 45. Janet, the program coordinator, who invited me to her book club. I sold the house in September. Too many memories, too many rooms. I bought a small condo near downtown, modern and bright, with a balcony overlooking the city. I decorated it exactly how I wanted, not how Tom or Jennifer would have preferred. Bright colors, weird art, a whole wall of bookshelves. I dated, which felt strange and wonderful and terrifying. Nothing serious, just dinners with kind men who made me laugh. I traveled to Seattle to visit Tom's brother, who I'd always liked, to San Diego on a whim, just to see the ocean. With Maria's help, I set up a literacy scholarship fund in Tom's name. It would pay for GED programs, adult education, library resources, the kind of thing Tom would have loved, practical and helpful. On what would have been Tom's 65th birthday, I went to the cemetery, brought his favorite beer, and sat on the grass next to his headstone. I hope you're not mad about Jennifer, I said out loud, not caring if anyone heard me talking to myself. I know you loved her. I did too. Maybe I still do, in some broken way. But I couldn't let her do what she planned. I couldn't let her take everything you worked for and pretend it was love. The wind rustled through the trees. I'm okay, though, I continued. Better than okay, actually. I'm learning who I am without you, and I hope, You'd be proud of how I handled things. I didn't just lie down and let them walk over me. I fought back. I protected myself. I stayed there for an hour, telling him about my students, about the condo, about the weird gallery opening Janet had dragged me to where I'd accidentally bought a sculpture of a cat made from old spoons. When I finally left, I felt lighter. Jennifer sent a Facebook friend request on Christmas Eve. I looked at it for a long time, clicked on her profile, saw pictures of Tyler, now taller in sporting braces, saw Jennifer and Brad at some party, smiling, saw their new kitchen, renovated. Apparently they'd found the money somewhere. I deleted the request without accepting. Tyler came to visit me in March. He was 14 now, almost as tall as I was. Jennifer didn't know he was coming, he told me. He'd told her he was staying at a friend's house. We went to a Diamondbacks game, ate too much ballpark food, talked about school and girls, and his dreams of being a marine biologist. Mom talks about you sometimes, he said carefully. She cries. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this, I said. She says you changed, that you're not the same person you were before Grandpa died. I thought about that. Maybe I'm not, I admitted. Maybe losing someone you love changes you. And maybe finding out your daughter was trying to steal from you changes you too. Tyler was quiet for a moment. She really did that? What she said, it isn't true? That you were confused and she was just trying to help? I pulled out my phone, showed him the screenshot I'd kept of that group chat, the one where his mother called my grief pathetic. He read it, his face going pale. Oh, I'm sorry you had to see that, I said. But you asked for the truth. I wish you could both just fix it, he said quietly. I wish everything could go back to normal. Me too, sweetheart. But some things can't be fixed, and some things shouldn't be. We sat in silence for a while, watching the game neither of us were really paying attention to anymore. I'm 64 now. It's been 2 years since that afternoon in Maria's office when I learned about the money. 2 years since I discovered my daughter's betrayal. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I'd tried to reconcile with Jennifer, forgiven her, moved past it. I don't. What she tried to do wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. It was calculated, planned. She looked at me and saw dollar signs, not a mother. She was willing to have me declared mentally incompetent, to take away my autonomy, my dignity, my right to make my own choices. That's not love. That's not even close to love. I have a good life now. A small circle of true friends. Work that matters. Financial security that I control. Tyler visits when he can, and we're building our own relationship, separate from Jennifer. Last week, I got a letter from a law firm in Scottsdale. Jennifer is divorcing Brad. She's asking if we can meet, talk, find a way forward. I haven't responded yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Because here's what I learned. You can grieve someone who's still alive. You can mourn the relationship you thought you had, the daughter you thought you raised, and then you can let it go and build something new. I built a life Tom would be proud of. I protected what he worked so hard to leave me. I didn't let grief or loneliness or the desire to be loved make me vulnerable to someone who would exploit those feelings. And on quiet evenings, when I sit on my balcony watching the Phoenix sunset, I feel something I never expected to feel again after Tom died. I feel free.